Hello everyone, today I'm talking about Silent Hill 2. It's kind of fun to review this game. It's just been such a while and such a very dear game to my heart. It's also one of those games that was just very kind of popular in a cult following. Apparently a lot of girls like this game. Apparently, I don't know, the core gamer girl fan base was a mixture of Kingdom Hearts, Silent Hill 2, and a DDR. I don't know. I just associate that with that kind of aesthetic and that subculture. But anyway, Silent Hill 2. Man. It's funny because when I thought of Silent Hill, I always thought that Silent Hill 2 was like the main one. Like this was the one that everyone played, everyone talks about because it's about James and his, grief with his, wife and all that stuff, whether she's alive or not. And, she thinks she's dead until he gets a letter from Silent Hill saying she's alive and, come and meet us in our special place. And the whole aesthetic and, style of this game, I love it because it's designed around characters, but also in the psychological aspect of the character. So, you essentially are, in this weird hellscape and you're constantly wondering if it's real or not. You'll find characters just in the world, James finds, what's his name? Billy, the fat kid eating pizza. And he's like, how can you eat pizza at a time like this? There are monsters and demons outside. He's like, oh, I'm hungry. And that kind of brings us into, this version of Silent Hill. There was, obviously some voice acting in the previous game, but in this one, it's just very, very different how they handle it. And in fact, when I first started playing the game, I was really put off by the very odd line delivery. There would be odd pauses in people talking, and I would just think, is this person autistic or what? What is going on? And I realized that element of frankly bad line delivery adds to the unsettling nature of the game, because you're not sure if this person is real or not. You're not sure if this is how someone would actually talk to you in a dream. And so it's something you kind of at first are kind of put off by. It's not something you can really, get behind until you realize that's part of the whole thing. And once you realize that, you're like, oh, and it kind of starts clicking for you. And then, arguably the line delivery does get better, but just the way how everything is designed and off-putting and naturally just strange is you're doubting your own sanity, your own mental state. And the cool thing about this game, at least compared to the first Silent Hill, is that you will come back to reality quite often. You'll come back to Silent Hill and it will be seemingly normal. It will be seemingly fine, and then suddenly again things will start going downhill into a more dystopian hellscape. And, I find it funny that like a dirty room is essentially hell to Japanese people. I don't know. I just find this funny concept that dirty industrial areas are literally like the mental hellscape that these characters, experience. And for some people, that's just normal. I find that really funny. There are a lot of scenes and stories and moments in this game that I've heard people tell stories about that really affected them differently. For example, one thing that didn't really affect me that I thought was cool that actually freaked out a lot of people is the scene in the hospital where after you've done all the things and you've done all the puzzles and you can't figure out where to go, you step into the elevator again, and what happens is that there's now a fourth floor button in the elevator, and I've heard some people say that really freaked them out. To me, I thought that was kind of just silly and like whatever. This game is also known for Pyramid Head and his appearance, and I find him really interesting because, any real fan of Silent Hill understands that the infuriating truth that the Pyramid Head is representative of James' guilt and specifically to James' consciousness. So that this entire world essentially is built around, his mental state, and thusly, specifically, his guilt around his wife Mary. And so for Pyramid Head to be kind of turned into this just character that shows up in everyone's Silent Hill is not lore accurate, and why it's so infuriating to anyone who's actually played this game. Also, another funny thing that I also saw is that Pyramid Head is actually a Western adaptation like Princess Toadstool and Dr. Robotnik. Actually, no, I think Robotnik is actually somewhat canon. Anyway, apparently in Japanese, it's just called Red Pyramid Thing. So Pyramid Head is actually a totally Western kind of take on this thing's name. It doesn't have a name. It is a demon. It is this essence of guilt and a presence that exists as this abstract thing. Like, it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an identity. It just is, and it's symbolic of James's guilt. It could be called the guilt for all we know. Something that I find really interesting that they did in this game, even though Harry was saving on red notepads in the previous game, this is the first game where the whole screen just goes red, and that's how you save. And I find that's a very interesting aspect in just color design in video games, because the environment's very drab, dark gray, and these red things really pop out of the environment, so okay, those are important, those are the save spots. I remember, when these games were coming out, there was Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and they're both technically, from a mechanical perspective, survival horror games, but from a literary story perspective, they could not be more different. Resident Evil becomes this like action-oriented, thriller game, while Silent Hill tells a very powerful, deep, emotional story about a person's mental state, and it's really there to disturb you and not shock you. And there's a lot of really great weird scenes in this game that are just so good. And again, it's very different from a Western horror, and that's another sad story about what happened to the series, that when Westerners got their hands on Resident Evil, they didn't, on Silent Hill, they did not understand it at all. And I just have to bring this up because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, is that they had some guy at PSM Magazine, when they still had gaming magazines, for the PlayStation in particular, who would do like fan art of like upcoming games, and his fan art would always be the most like Western style macho man thing in the world. And when they heard about Silent Hill coming out as another survival horror game, they thought it'd be like Resident Evil, and so this artwork of Silent Hill on PSM Magazine shows James Sunderland as this super buff, like roided up guy who's gonna save Sybil the chick, and he's gonna save the day. And it could not be further from the truth. The aesthetic and the style and tone of the game, it was absolutely so funny. And I think the guy also did one for Final Fantasy X, but I digress. These games are really not supposed to be thrillers. They're supposed to be about deep emotional storytelling and character revelation, that we're going through this person's memories and their feelings and their guilt, and James himself as a character, what is it that is haunting him? And basically a lot of this is a psychological trip for James to confront the truth about, the past, about what he did and what happened to Mary, and how he's also just, dealing with it. And it's a story about, loss and grief and pain and all that stuff, but the way it's done is really, really interesting. And the one thing I guess I'm not thrilled by, but also understand, is that in this game, there's not a lot of lore. There's not a lot of story, technically. In the Silent Hill 1, you had the whole cult and the sigil and, the whole plan to, like, resurrect the girl, but then something went wrong. And this one is just very much a character study, and you really get that right off the bat, because the very first scene of the game is this beautiful and haunting CG cutscene of James running his hand down his face as he looks into the dirty bathroom mirror in the stall, and you just have this moment where you're looking at James's face, and you know, in the normal in-game cutscene, he has just a normal, you know, kind of stone cold face, and it's kind of hard to see because you also have tank controls. But in this scene, he has this expression, and the expression on James' face to this day, I don't know what it is. It's this weird thing where he's like depressed, he's haunted, he's bothered, but he's also determined to not be bothered by something, and delusional. There's some weird, interesting psychological thing going on. And again, I just don't, when you look at a character and you cannot tell what they are thinking, and you are just wondering, it's so unnerving. And that's what it is. It's the subtleties in this game that unnerve us. It's the psychological horror and these subtle, you know, themes. And Akira Yamaoka, who kind of works on these games, you know, his music design, especially in Silent Hill 3, is so key to horror. You know, everyone's kind of said this about horror movies, is that sound design is way more important than what you're seeing. It makes you feel the emotion and the mood. And also, whenever there's a jump scare in a movie, like, you could just listen to the soundtrack, and whenever there's a huge sound, it's this cheap way to make you scared and make you jump and whatever. It's this very stupid, cheap thing. Again, there's just so many moments in this game where they disturb you, but you don't know why. Like the very classic, there was a hole here and it's gone now. You know, it seems like that, where you just, you know, it's nothing terrible that's going on. There's nothing essentially horrible, or, you know, no one's dying, nothing bad is happening, but this thing that there was something here once and it's gone now. And just, you know, you could read into that. There's so many interpretations and, you know, things you could read into it and have a direct, you know, understanding of this thing. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just something that doesn't have a clear answer, and it disturbs us because of that. And, you know, there's many times in this game where, especially near the end, where James is just dropping down a series of holes. He's just going deeper and deeper underground with no way to get out. And it's very similar to his mental state, or to, like, I don't know, an addict or something, where they just go deeper and deeper and deeper and make sure that there's no way for them to get back to where they were, and they just want to drown themselves and destroy themselves. And it's this amazingly deep, emotional, interesting story that unfolds. And Silent Hill 2 is just kind of a one-off for that. I still have to play 4, so maybe it might be similar in that style of game, but I can't imagine it's on the same scale as this. And that's why so many people fell in love with this game. It just did something so different, even to today. You just don't see this kind of psychological storytelling, and I love psychological storytelling. It is so interesting to me. It is, like, arguably the only interesting thing to me, because it's so, there's nothing like it, and it's so it's something that is so underappreciated and underdone that I feel like it's such an easy thing to pull off and get a great kind of reaction to it. Again, besides the combat, the puzzles in the game are very kind of I don't want to say straightforward, but, you know, of the same element of Silent Hill 1. You again have crazy things where you have to, like, you know, melt the wax and find the doll's finger inside the wax candle, and then equip it on the doll and use that to, like, you know, scratch the chalkboard, and then the door will unlock, and just crazy stuff. Oh god, I forgot to mention this. There is one puzzle in Silent Hill 1 that is absolutely stupidly difficult, where it's about this poem about birds, and then you have a piano, and you have to know which, like, keys to play. And like I literally just gave up. I had to look it up, and it still does not make any sense to me to this day. That bird piano puzzle, where like one is a crow, so those should be the black keys, right? One is a dove, so those should be the white keys, right? No, it's something else that just went over my head. And it's the one like puzzle I had just no idea how to solve. I had to look it up. There aren't any of those really in this game. I don't recall any impossible puzzles. Everything was more or less straightforward and very, very cool. Again, the way this game ends is, I'm not sure if you get like a different boss depending on how you played, but you will get different endings depending on how you played. So if you're more conservative with your ammo, more methodical, if you spend more time playing the game than others, you got literally a completely different ending. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you do, if you just have a different play style, it will just tell you this is what happened now. So things can range from things like in water, where James drives, the car into the lake where Mary is apparently. There's another one where he takes Mary's body into an ancient magical island to resurrect it. There's another one where it's a total joke ending. I forget how you get it. Of course, it has a UFO ending, but there's another one that's a total joke ending one. This game has two of them, and it's absolutely ridiculous, where basically it turns out that the entire manifestation of demons was run by a Shiba Inu dog in this control room. It's the funniest thing. I've never actually gotten it, but looking at it online, it is the funniest ending. It is so ridiculous and over the top. I absolutely love it. And I think they even had some promotion featuring it in the Silent Hill Direct thing, where they revealed all the new projects they were working on. But yeah, again, this game does a lot of things that just generally unnerve you, and it's unclear why they do that. And what it reminds me of is what the director said about this game, is that it's about shaking the human heart. It's about doing things that unnerve us and make us feel uncomfortable, but we can't explain why. And it's the game that basically deals a lot, frankly, with the subconscious. And, that really makes sense when we think about a lot of the things that haunt us and make us uncomfortable. This whole thing is about James's subconscious, how he has unresolved issues and he's trying to confront them as manifestations in his dreams. And Silent Hill is where your dreams get manifested into reality. And that's exactly the same thing as Jacob's Ladder, and it's such an important, powerful, interesting story, and it's just made with so much passion and love and just this weird offbeat interest that you can't help but fall in love with it. Again, the ending to this game, you eventually end up fighting, Pyramid Head, and it's a very weird, crazy cutscene how you actually defeat Pyramid Head, and it really ties together and says kind of directly exactly what James is going through. There's other characters in this game, like what's the girl with the black brown hair? I think her name is like Ashley or something. And so you go through her, and when she's in the other world, she has her own mental state, and it's usually things are on fire. And so you see their two subconsciouses are essentially resonating in this place in Silent Hill, which is real and not real at the same time. Again, I love this psychological storytelling where the manifestations of their minds is brought to the forefront and actually are created to be a real thing. I don't think you get a lot more melee weapons in this game. I think you just have a few more, standard, firearms and whatnot. So the combat really, compared to Silent Hill 1, isn't that much different. It just looks more real, I guess. And the other thing about it, I guess I might as well get it off there, is, there is a Silent Hill 2 remake happening. And that game, yeah, it's questionable as to exactly what it's going to be like and what's going on. In the sense that, I just don't think it's ever going to be able to capture the original vibe of this game. Who knows, maybe they'll do a completely new, different story. Maybe they'll completely screw it up. It's made by Blooper Team, who apparently have also only made games like Layers of Fear, which is a jump scare simulator, which I despise oh so much. And this is such a wonderful, well done IP that, you know, it would be such a shame to have it, you know, be misrepresented. But, you know, it is what it is. The funny thing I also realized is that people were ragging on the new Silent Hill 2 remake trailer for being too combat focused. But if you look at the original Silent Hill 2 trailer for the game, they actually focused a lot on combat and not on the actual story of the game, which is the real reason that people would play it. I find that to be very, very funny. But yeah. James is a fantastic character. Pyramid has an iconic, you know, kind of character, or Red Pyramid thing, or whatever you want to call him. Again, the soundtrack in this game is, you know, really great. Sound design is very spooky, and it is a wonderful game and like an absolute classic. And you can see why people still talk about this game years after it came out. Anyway, with all that being said, guys, I love this game. You guys absolutely should play it. And that's it. See you later. Bye.